Okay, here we go. Welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. And Matt is joining us today. Matt, do you care to just sort of introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do, your company, kind of give the audience a general feel for who you are?
Sure. Well, I'm an SEO strategist. My name's Matt Hepburn. I own a company called EMJ Media. And we have a podcast right now, which is the EMJ Podcast. And soon we're going to have an academy. During my full-time job, I work for John Hancock Manulife, and I manage the search engine optimization for all of Canada. So,
oh, wow. All of Canada.
All of Canada, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So SEO, a term that, let's say, I don't know, 6 years ago for me, as I was maybe starting to get a little bit more involved with what does it mean to have a website? What does it mean for online selling? What does it mean, e-commerce? And sheds just sort of are not going to be safe in that space, even though we're a conservative industry. It's not safe in that space of the way that shoppers choose to shop. So we've got probably, companies that are really, really advanced and hungry and hiring in-house, internal folks to take care of that. And then we've got folks that say, how important is a website or how important is SEO? I really don't understand. And they might not know what potential customer base they're missing. So how do you feel like a shed business can improve its local SEO? Like what does that mean? What does it look like?
So local SEO is really, really key. The easiest free advertising they can do is they can sign up for a Google business profile. And when that's really completed really well, and the best thing to do first is really look at the competitors through some of the different tools that are out there to see kind of what categories that they're in, how they're showing up, how many reviews they have, things like that. And actually also get an idea of like, what are your competitors' websites look like? What's the type of content that is on those sites? From taking that look first and then optimizing your Google business profile. It used to be called Google My Business.
Uh-huh.
And that helps you show up in Google Maps for surrounding area. So you can put in the different towns that you service. If it could be two ways. If you have a location that people can come into, you're putting your hours in that location. If you are serving an area, but you don't have a location, you can also put in those different towns around you. And so you can do it both ways. And you show up on Google Maps, it's free. And you can put different promotions on there too, as well. Besides photos and videos, you can put promotions for your sales, because this type of search engine result is where people are going to purchase things. So the type of posts you'd want to put would be your offers. In August we have 20% off or whatever it is. This size shed, and that'll be a focal point within the search engine results. And if none of your competitors are doing an offer like that, and in that surrounding area, then it's a really good chance that you're going to get a lot more business just from that, and it's free advertising. So,
for sure. I mean, just the conversation around SEO in general, and then trying to categorize them down into local SEO and what that looks like and how it means. In the shed business, we're fragmented, so we might have a big box store that has 300, 700. 1,500 dealer network, who knows? And then you also have the mom and pop occasionally. And, for them, the question is, how do I compete in that local arena, with someone who's able to bring those tools,
So there are things that you can do that people are going to look for right away. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to get reviews from your clients, from your customers. People look at reviews almost all the time online first before they make a purchase decision. So if you're collecting reviews from your customers, and you want to collect them when they're happy, right? That honeymoon kind of status that they're in. You don't want to wait, 6 months to like email them like, oh, could you fill out a review? that's not when you want to do it. That honeymoon period has cooled off, and they're not thinking about you. They're not probably even thinking about sheds. They're thinking about something completely else. So you want to do that fairly quickly and work that into your process. If you do that, you're going to get a lot more reputation online, locally on that. It's going to help push your rankings. Reviews are key, right? So that's one of the first things that you want to do. You also want to do get signed up for some different citations from different listings. So Yelp could be an example of one of those citations, and they want to have the same address and information about your business and be consistent around the web. That helps with the indexation a little bit of your listing, and really just want to fill it out as completely as possible and think about it from the perspective of, if I'm looking for to purchase something online, what is the quality of what I see in Google Maps, and what actually strikes my fancy? Is it somebody who has a lot of reviews? Is it somebody who has filled out all their information? And then you also want to think about, right, so that's just in Google Maps. There's also the opportunity in Google or local organic results for your blue links, your normal blue links, to show up for that. So you want to have content that's optimized, that talks about the geolocation of the main town that you're in, where your location is in. And that's going to tie actually back into your Google business profile. You can actually have several other pages that talk about the other towns, the surrounding towns, if you wanted to, or if you can go all the way up to the county level if you wanted to. If it has a lot more, it really depends upon what is the population density in your area. So if you're in an area that is more rural, you'll probably want to go on a county basis and try to rank for that. That way you're going to get a higher amount of searchers that are searching that can find you in those local organic results. So it's really about building that up. There's different things that you can do to actually push that up. You can get links from other local relevant businesses. And you could do a link building campaign. One of the easiest building campaigns that you can do, and something that builds up reputation, is to talk about your expertise in that industry on other podcasts. And then you get links back from that podcast back to your website, to the relevant content. So wonderful way. You can also get reviews, because if you have talked about your expertise of your business and you have given value to the host, you can ask that host after the show, would you mind filling out a review for me on Google Business Profile? So another way to boost your reviews if you don't have any, or you have little.
Have you considered adding a line of shed accessory items to your sales lot? Introducing Shedderize. Shedderize has multiple items to organize your customer's new shed. From tool shelves to workbenches with pegboard, 3-tier shelves, cord and ladder hooks, and more. Shedderize is seeking shed manufacturers and dealers who want to partner and make these items available for your customers. Dealers can order items for display, then complete an order form and have the items shipped directly to the customer. You can also purchase in bulk to add to your line of sheds, or have inventory available right there at your sales lot. Installation is simple and takes just a few minutes for most items. To know more, contact Dave Fisher at 866-548-1625 or visit Shedderize.com. Shedderize, organization made easy. No, perfect. One thing that we talked about was being a podcast guest and just thinking about podcasting in general. I think I told you, I was like, haven't been a professional videographer and an audio expert. And actually what I've learned is I've learned those things by default, right? So my passion was to connect with people and then hire that work, right, to help get done. So someone who has a passion about that work could do that. The reason I think that's important, and we were kind of talking off air about that prior to getting started, is developing your audience and things like that. And even as a shed company, you can do that type of thing. I've had people a lot of times ask me, and I see this in podcast communities places I follow, maybe a Facebook, group or something. And maybe you've seen this question. You have a podcast, so you probably follow some of these things pretty closely. They'll say, hey, I want to start a podcast. What should I talk about? And I'm like, if they were actually in front of me, the first answer I would say is you don't. You don't need to just start a podcast to start a podcast because it's a cool and fun and fad thing. If you're not passionate, I think your audience.
Yeah, no, you're right on. So one of the things that I learned really, for a long time, I struggled for my podcast for almost 1.5 to 2 years to say, should I do a podcast? What do I have to say? Why would somebody listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to build my self-confidence to say, I've got a different experience in what I do. I've gone from local to agency to consulting to enterprise level. And that's not the average journey of somebody who does what I do. So I said, I've had a different journey. So that would be a great type of place I could come from that experience. So one thing I would suggest from a business owner is come from your experience and come from your passion. If you don't have the two of those together, your experience lends credence to why somebody should be listening to you. Your passion, if you're not passionate about what you're talking about, if that doesn't come through with your voice, and it doesn't have to be that you're way excited, it just means that you have to your passion comes through your knowledge and what you want to talk about, right? So that's key. So if you can do that, then you're the perfect podcast host, because then it's really about finding the topics, who you're going to talk to, what type of podcast you're going to have. There's so many different ways you can do a podcast. Some of them are single people. Some of them, like we talked offline a little bit, you go out and then you physically meet with people versus it being a virtual type of interview like we're doing now. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. So,
well, and we've done quite a few. I always love in-person interviews, not just for multiple reasons, whether it be the sound quality or whatever, but it's also just being able to get in front of somebody and break bread with them is what I like to say. I really get to know you whenever I sit and talk with you. And then my journey is building relationships. So it's how can I help you? How can I be a resource for you to help you? I find that you can find a way to make a living through that, but you just keep helping people, just keep being a resource for people. Being a podcast guest, breaking that down a little bit more narrow to specifically the Shed Geek Podcast. The reason I interview shed haulers, shed sellers, shed builders, shed suppliers, the reason I do that is because it's a perfect repurpose tool that you can use, right? You can take that and clip it up and put it on if you're looking for content or if you're hiring someone to do content creation, it's the perfect way for you to take those videos and cut them up and put them on your own socials or create a website link with your interview. And we know this. We know that people are shopping online before they're shopping at your store in a lot of cases. And whoever they can connect with the most is a lot of times who's going to get their attention. And people buy from people they trust. So if they get to talk to you for 45 minutes without ever speaking a word to you, that's terribly important. And that's kind of what they get with a podcast. They feel like they can listen to your story or the journey or the story of your hauling success or your manufacturing and how you got started. There's an about section on almost every website.
That's right.
And that's what this is doing. It's just you actually telling them about, and they get to experience that and you before they actually show up and knock on the door, so that it's a warm lead. They're already comfortable. So that's one reason why I really push for some of my audience to say, hey, feel free to come on anytime, because you can repurpose your interview too. It's not just for me.
So I love that in so many different ways, because a lot of about pages are just about the individual who is owning the business versus there are other about pages that are about, like, here's our journey. Like, here's where we've gone. Here's where we've come from. Here's what we've done. And this is more about that. Right. And the other thing with video being so prominent, and I'm going to talk about another way, that's going to tie into another way how you can use video locally. But by having different segments that you can cut up it means you can use it in a lot of different mediums. So you can put that on social, like on LinkedIn, a whole episode. If it's video or audio, you can share that to other social episodes. But things like TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, they have things called shorts. So you can make these short videos. And it's all about engagement, right? So if you have a lot of different clips that you can cut together, you're keeping people more engaged, because it's not just this, one thing that's happening. It's a lot of moving action. So you're more likely to get eyes on this for a longer period of time with your video. So I'm just going to key into video too, because we were talking about local search results. So one thing that you can do, if you have some great content on your site and you're explaining things, you can go on to Zoom, record yourself and talk, and have somebody ask you some questions, and you can answer the same content that's on your page. And now you can embed that YouTube video on your page, even with some branding, and people digest things differently. Some people want to digest video, and so that video can show up locally within the search results too. It's just another way that you can show your experience and do the connection of the relationship that you were just talking about before. So,
Matt, for me, man, communication is like absolutely one of the absolute keys to life. I often say like communication is one of the like most bewildering parts of the human experience. Like what it means to get my what's in my heart to my mouth, and then don't try not to mess it up with words.
Yeah.
So that you can understand and I can transfer my intent rather than just my words, because words have consequences and they have all of these nuance, right? So
yep.
The word, I'm getting down a rabbit hole here, but
no, you're not. Our motto is by serving others, we find purpose. So you're talking about that, right? So if your words get in the way, but if you're tying your heart to the connection of the person that you're trying to talk to and meet and build relationship on, that's what's important.
Hello from the Shed Geek. Let's take a walk through My Shed 3D. With My Shed 3D, your company can simply add a 3D builder button to its website. Once the customer clicks onto the 3D builder button, they will enter some basic information to get started. Remember, this information is captured in your Leads tab, whether or not the customer designs a building. This is very valuable information that turns a cold call into a warm lead. Next, they begin the design of their shed by selecting a primary use, a style, and a size that best fits their need. My Shed 3D has multiple styles that are available and consistent with traditional and barn styles within the shed industry. However, if you offer a customized or non-traditional style, My Shed Solutions can build that design for future use. We can also save on some design features that make it easy to adjust without a major rebuild or added fees for design changes. For instance, want to offer a steeper roof pitch? Just navigate to the Settings tab. Then click the Building Models. Click Edit Building and just enter the new roof center height, and the design changes will reflect on this style option. This will save you thousands versus traditional design changes that need to build a whole new style to match your design. From here, simply choose the style, siding, and color. Then choose a trim and roofing style and color. Next, let's add a door. That was goofy. Next, let's add a door. It is required to add a door to move forward with the design, as at least one ingress-egress option is necessary. Then add some design changes for personalization. Maybe some windows, or a porch, or some interior shelving. Next, just click Save Design and the customer will receive an automated text with all the features of the design to the email address entered at the beginning. From here, they can edit the design, view the details of the design, pay now to order the shed, or click Rent to Own to complete the necessary steps to purchase a shed they designed with My Shed 3D. The design enters the admin panel as a quote, and this is where the manufacturer can update the progress of the design once a deposit is taken. My Shed, from design to delivery, we have you covered.
Well, I'm convinced that with correct communication, I mean, we can feed the hungry, we can help the addicts. We can, stop the wars. I mean, I'm probably a little bit of a dreamer, but, I just feel like effective communication can do so many things, but the journey of communication is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for me in which video is imperative in that is it's a secondary form of communication. Primitive is obviously me in front of you talking and being able to pick up. And this is even in the sales process, something that is taught to you, and something I know that for me in customer service for years was taught is picking up the inflection in your voice. I mean, watching the body language of the person you're talking to. So primitive communication, that's good. But what's the next best thing is video. And it's just on the rise. I mean, it's why YouTube's the second largest search engine, right? So not utilizing video for your company. I mean, I just feel like it's so imperative, whether it's showing the customer experience, the journey, the delivery journey, the sales process, just creating video that makes a lot of sense to share on your website, your socials, all these different things. It's a warm lead. It's a warm lead, and I mean, there's so much you can do. A new employee comes in, you could be recording the building of a shed, and before they actually put hands on a hammer or a nail gun, they can, watch this video, and kind of it starts to sink in. I know it's not as good as prime communication. And then, of course, the last level of communication there, outside of being able to do a phone call, which is as good as video, is texting and email, which is so... Oh man, we misread emails all the time, don't we? Or text, because it doesn't have any emotion unless you put all caps or specifically let me know. And that's where communication gets lost among people, I think.
So there's definitely tools for local businesses that where they can have better communication. So one of my recent podcast guests, Aaron, was talking about his company, and his company is all about text messaging, like you were saying. So like he realized when he was trying to buy a boat, I think that, it took 4 days for the company to get back to him via email, and he was no longer in the area. So he was no longer shopping. So like that was a lost opportunity. So I think when we're talking about this is, how do we communicate faster to the potential customer and communicate in the way that they want to have communication? So he owns a company called Lead Inferno.
No way. Did you just say Aaron Weike?
Yep.
From Lead Inferno?
Yep.
Because I've had him on the show.
Yeah.
For one, and I was going to mention him right after you got done talking about this. I've got links to all of his stuff. And Aaron's awesome. But go ahead. I can't believe I didn't know that before having you on the podcast.
I was introduced to him by Mike Blumenthal, who is the godfather of local SEO. So
okay.
So then because he also Aaron used to be the I think the CFO or the CMO for Gather Up, which was Mike Blumenthal's old company called Get 5 Stars or something like that first. And so that's how they progressed. And then Aaron formed Lead Inferno after. It's Lead Inferno, not Lead Inferno. Lead Inferno.
Yeah, and I use it, right? So on my website, I don't generate a lot of. That's why I'm rebuilding the site. And I mean, I love any of the like previous partners and any of that I've worked with, but I'm building it in a way to try and create SEO, and got a local friend who's able to build that. And so I can just make changes quicker, and he's teaching me how to, work on some of the back end through the WordPress site and all that. And I can do just enough to be dangerous.
That's good.
But what I've learned is like having the app on there. If imagine I was wanting to sell a shed, and someone wanted to, and this is probably where you're going, someone wanted to get in touch with you who's on your website immediately.
That's right.
If they fill out a landing page form or something like that, that's great. But imagine just being able to text with the owner, and that's something that we do a lot.
Right.
Is text. So it's so convenient. And I've had people, you can literally go to the Shed Geek podcast and put this, like, just click on the our website and click on the very bottom right hand corner and talk to me right there, right, like real time from there. And just imagine if that was your guest. So someone who was on your website who was looking at a shed. You blew me away whenever you mentioned Aaron's name. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that we had a common acquaintance. So
no, it's all good. So that's key, right? So the fact that you're going to communicate in real time when it's really more about when is the need of that customer, right? So they're in that honeymoon time frame right now. They're on your website, right? So it is the best time to communicate with them. By the time that they get off your website, that honeymoon period which we talked about before, it's kind of over, and they're actually in the search results looking for the next business that can give them a shed. So that is most likely what they're doing. So I'm not saying your website's not great, but it's just the attention span of the user, right? And I'm not talking about your website. I'm talking about for the listeners. I'm saying you have to capture, you have to actually engage with that potential customer as soon as you possibly can, because they're going to be on to the next shed provider or shed hauler or whatever it might be. Yeah. So
man, what and then, gosh, just using that, I think we kind of tied all that into using that as a backlink strategy. Just being on and increasing your traffic on your own website to get it more optimized. The whole point of optimization is you're trying to get eyes on your website. The more eyes you get on there, the more relevant you appear. Right? That's the thought.
That's really it. So showing up more locally, both in Google Maps and in Google Local Organic, is going to be the key part for your geolocation. So it's either going to be based on how you optimize those pages for the town or the county level, like we were talking about before. And that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to centralize where you can be found locally. For other businesses that aren't going local, then they can leave out the geolocation, and they can just but I would say that probably the majority of them are going to be a local business.
The key to getting indexed, how important is and what are there's so much information out there that's free information on podcasts that's that you don't have to attend college to learn a lot of these things. It's amazing. The internet has done it. We live in a generation where there's more information readily available at your fingertips than ever before. Right. So what tricks are there to index and
so luckily it's not too hard for indexation. So Google and Bing provide resources called Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools. And what you can do is you can validate your website. You only have to actually validate your website with Google, but you still have to have an account with Bing. And then you can actually add what's called an XML sitemap. So an XML sitemap is information that tells the search engines, here are the pages that I want to index. And it integrates with Google Search Console and Bing. And so when you make a change to a page, it actually alerts them there's been a change that's made to this page. Come check it out, crawl that page, and then index those changes. So the validation and the inclusion of the XML sitemaps are really, really key for indexation. And once you're validated and you have all your information over into Google, you can just log into your Bing account and you can actually import those the websites that you have validated in Google Search Console right into Bing. And then you just have to add that XML sitemap URL, which is the address of that page, into that. And then you can basically sync them up. It takes usually 20, 40, 48 hours for them to, upon you setting it up, for them to come and crawl your site. And the good news is that once you do that, when you add a new page or add a new post or a custom post, whatever it is that you're adding, that's included within your XML sitemap. So it tells Google, hey, this content is there for indexation. If for some reason content is not within Google, and there's a way to check that. You can basically put in the Google site, SITE, semicolon, and put in the URL, and it will show whether it's in Google search results or not. So then what you could do is you could actually inspect that URL within Google Search Console. And if it's not showing up, it'll tell you whether it's available and it's indexed or not. You can submit it for indexation within Google Search Console. And you can do something very similar within Bing. So it's a way for you to take content that for some reason didn't get indexed and ask Google to recrawl it so they can index it.
Are you looking for a software system to help run your entire business? Then you need to check out the Dealer Management System, brought to you by RTO National. The DMS has a point of sale center where you can complete cash, credit card, lease, or finance sales all in one place, and an inventory module where you can manage your inventory and even push it to your website. One of the coolest features is the Transportation Center. You can schedule, edit, and finalize all transportations with a calendar and a map view, and have driver-specific views with note communications, and an electronic delivery sheet with photo upload. Having all of this data in one place allows the DMS to populate data charts, consolidate reporting, and help you easily track sales trends to make faster and better decisions. The best part is that you can review and finalize in-process deals for payment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Call 833-588-1802 or click the QR code to schedule a demo today.
There's a lot of people who their eyes are going to glaze over
Yeah,
during these technical experiences or explanation. I'm at a place, say 10 years ago, I would have been like, what is he talking about?
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place to where I'm going, man, I want to know more. I want to learn more. We have a variety of different probably personalities. I know in the shed industry, some that say, no idea what this guy's talking about, but I better hire someone to figure out how to do that. I recognize that's important, but maybe I can't do it myself. It's probably less intimidating, right?
Than you think.
Right. So that's actually why we're building EMJ Academy, and we're building it all with video lessons so that, and that's coming very soon, so that people can understand everything that we're talking about, like how to actually do all the on-page SEO work, the importance of podcasts for building backlinks to their website. You know, what is a local lead magnet? So a shed store could do this, right? They could, you know, I'm going to give you an example as an attorney, and then we're going to have to figure out what the value would be for a shed store. So as an example for an attorney, let's say you had a DUI attorney, right? And he wanted to have on his localized page that's linking up to his Google business profile, he wanted to have something that basically people ask for all the time. What is that? What is that thing? So it might be opt in to get this card that you can carry in your wallet so that you know what to do in case you get pulled over for a DUI. Here are the 10 things that you need to do or not say, right? And then what they could do is they could use email marketing. So many different types of email marketing accounts to be able to get subscribers. And not only could they download that, maybe they have a newsletter that they want to actually send out. So you could have that within the content too. Also be up to date on this. So what we'd have to do is we'd have to say, how can we take that same type of intent to the shed industry into a shed business? It might be 10 things that you need to know before you buy a shed, or why a foundation needs to be set, and the 10 things you need to do to set up your foundation before you install your shed on your property, whatever it might be. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm not that shed expert, but the thing would be, how does this local business make that? And so that's really important, because if you are providing extra value while you're on a podcast as a business, talking about your reputation, and you can say, look, I have this great resource on this page, and this is what it's going to help out with, then it provides much more value to the podcast host to say, wow, this is great. Look what he can do to give to this information to my audience, and they're going to love that. So it's and it helps build links to that local page, which helps push that. So links from third-party relevant sites or business sites that are topically talking about what you're talking about, will actually help push your ranking of your keywords. Google sees these links as votes. So I'm going to throw you another thing too, right? So if you're going to be a guest on a podcast for your business, and we were talking about keywords for a second ago, you want to have your page optimized around your shed business and topical location. That is the keyword. So it's going to be, you'll have a branded keyword around your business name, but you're also going to have a keyword about sheds for sale in Chattanooga, whatever it might be. Right. So you're going to have that. So what you're going to want to do is when you go on these other shows, you want to talk about relevant topics to your shed business, and you're going to make about 10 questions. You're going to provide that podcast host that it's not just the same 10 questions every time. These are questions that you want to make sure that are relevant to the podcast host that you're on and ties to their business, but also is topically relevant to tie back to the page that you want to link to. Why is this important? Because if you can get a link from a page that's topically relevant to your page, Google finds that highly more important than just a link from any old website, right? So it's related topically business-wise because it's a business site, and then the content on that site is talking about similar things to what your website's promoting. So Google loves that.
Man, all that's great, and I love that you bring that point to us, because not being a shed builder or shed seller or hauler, you recognize the things that are in the conversations of so many that I've already had already. And we've got some two-sided marketplaces that have hit the shed industry. Literally, I've worked closely with both and had both have been advertisers on the show, shedsforsale.com and Shed Hub. And that's one thing that I knew about even Shed Hub. We talked about that early on, was like the importance of SEO, and man, they did a really good job, in getting in front of people. But it's the same thing that you're trying to do if you're a web developer. You're trying to optimize a website. They're just trying to optimize their website nationally. That's right. The difference, and on a local level in every respect. And I'm sure both companies are trying to do the same thing, and have an appreciation for absolutely what both companies have done inside the industry. But you're going to see more of that, and probably not less of it. But some folks will say, well, I don't really want to know about all that. I don't want to get into the details. I just like building sheds. I just like hauling sheds, and I'm comfortable with that.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it's really about, hiring the right type of agency that does have that experience, that's focused on local. I have my favorites that are in the industry, and they're some of the top experts. So it'd be companies like Steady Demand or Sterling Sky, or like Blumenthal. Those the top three that I would talk about. And just because they're top, that doesn't mean that they have all this experience that they're more expensive than somebody else. When I actually refer out companies like that, I want to know about their experience of what they've actually accomplished, that they're not giving empty promises, and also that they're leaders in education in local SEO in the industry. So those are those three companies right there. So.
No, all of that is great. Tell me more about this EMJ Academy. So we started something recently.
Right.
I felt like the shed sales side of the industry, I felt like outside of it just being very fragmented, you have consignment dealers, you have retailers, you have some company-owned dealers. I mean, some that's getting a percentage, some that's actually buying, marking up MSRP and making, changing and working in the margins. And so not all one model is the way to do things. I mean, there's several different models. But we felt like the sales people, it's kind of hard to get a group of salespeople together.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about creating an event, and then all of a sudden that turned into a barbecue, and all of a sudden that turned into, well, if you have an event, and just allow me to ad lib here for just 1 second, I think you'll get where I'm going. If you have an event and you have people come together and there's no structure, it'll become self-governed. And then certain people will begin to, emerge as the leaders inside of that. So what we wanted to do was like take a top-down approach that kind of says, hey, let's bottleneck that information and have a one-time opportunity annually to do something that's not one and done, that actually has life, but then also has something that can follow you home. And we're going to talk about this on a future episode. I'll get together with the guys from the executive team there at Shed University, myself, Anthony Mitchell of Outdoor Options, Travis Beachy of Farm and Yard, and Matthew Black of Black's Buildings. And these were just the guys, as I talked about the need for this, seemed to be the most interested and encouraging and wanted to be a part of it. And it's going great. So we created a Shed Academy.
I love it.
And the reason we're trying to do that is for that purpose. So to educate, to educate, to bring community, and to look past the reality that we compete, but how do we also still how can we come together in a sense of community still yet? So tell me more about EMJ Academy, and I would love to talk with you more about that off air.
Yeah. So it's relatively a new thing. So trying to figure out, what I could leave as a legacy. I think when I first started, there wasn't a lot of information about SEO, and what was there was really out of date. And the problem we have right now is there's an overabundance of information online, and you have the issue of people parroting stuff that they've just read online that could be from 2004, which is out of date. There's information out there that can come across as extremely spammy if you put it on your website or if you put it into your email communication. What really is really key is that we understand that we are talking to people who are users, and it's about communicating to them in a way that is empathetic, and we put ourselves in their shoes. All Google cares about is the users. They don't care about website owners, right, at all. So they want the best experience for their users. So if we come from that light and say, how can we give, from the shed industry perspective in our website, how can we give the best experience to our users, and what would a user want? What's missing from the website? And it's not always about SEO. It's about the experience that the user could have, right? So we were just talking before about SMX or text messaging. What would the user want, right? In that instance, they want fast communication and to get information back or not quickly, even if it's like, hey, I'm in a meeting right now, I can't talk for 2 hours. I think there's a response rate of text messaging if it's usually responded within 90 seconds or something like that. So you don't have that when you have emails and from forms, which is the default thing that happens from a form. And emails from forms can go into hidden folders in your email, and you're not even aware that they're there. So for me, it's really about the experience for the user, how we can make that a joyful experience, and how we can set ourselves apart from our competitors. That's really what it's about, right? And be authentic about who and what we are and what we sell. And if you can include things like video that basically shows the building process, maybe timeline, construction or whatever, and make it funny, now you're engaging them and you're showing your humanity at the same time. So that's really the key thing. And I would think that the shed industry would be a fantastic way to show, the process of things being built. Even yards where things are being dragged up by cranes or whatever it might be, to actually build these things. Or even the process of like getting sheds up onto a big truck to ship them, right? Like, what is that process? What does it look like for that part of the business? How do they put them on? How do they protect them? Um, Maybe an experience of like a direct to you. It came from this yard, it was placed on the truck, and now it was delivered to you and then installed on, that would be a great experience. So how can we do that? And I'm sorry, I'm rambling on this point, but
no, you're good. You're good. Sometimes the magic happens in the rambling sometimes. So that's all right.
So that to me would be the thing. Make your website personal. Don't make it come across corporate.
Yeah. No, what I love about the shed industry is I struggle with the idea of like even the professional shed seller. One of the things I was given to build was a shed sales professionals page, and it's just about doubled in that time. And I guess I'm passionate about it because of the time that I spent in sales. I don't do that directly now, but I know the things I experienced, and I knew there had to be a way. A lot of times I will use this phrase a lot. I felt like I was on an island, like I was in a fishbowl alone, and I didn't know what other shed sellers were, experiencing. And I wanted to know, but I didn't want to just call them up and ask them, especially if they're a local competitor, to be like that vulnerable to say, hey, what are you experiencing? Like I want you to do well, but I want to do well too. And I don't know how that happens. So for me, it was going outside of that, and getting a chance to do rep work allowed me to travel the country and get to see. And a lot of these people were saying this same thing, Matt, as I went from one place to the next. It's, what are you seeing? What are you seeing here? What about sales? What about that? So you could tell they were looking for resources.
So so it sounds to me, if you can, you're talking about all these big builders too. So if you can kind of communicate that information down, that's going to be key. I know I lost the thread for a second for the EMJ Academy. So first of all, EMJ stands for Entrepreneur's Marketing Journey. That's what EMJ stands for. So I built this podcast, and I just, for so many years, I found information to be kind of all over the place. So we're developing these video courses of trying to put all my knowledge together on SEO and search engine optimization and user experience and what it might be, into one place where there's multiple courses. So some of it could be very simple, like setting up your business for a Google business profile, how to optimize that, how to do competitive analysis from your competition and see where they're listed or what categories they're listed in to see if you are in the right or wrong place. Tons of on-page SEO type of stuff. And then the big thing that we're going to be adding is, how to actually build reputation through becoming a podcast guest, and build links and build reviews to your website. So, because that's all important.
What I love about this too is the relationships that gets built. Me and you were talking previous to coming on air here, and I'll just kind of spill the beans here to the audience. Like, I mean, we're both very blue collar guys. I mean, you spent quite a bit of time as a professional painter. Is that correct?
Yeah, I spent over 10 years. I dropped out of college. So for me, I went to college, and I went all the way from New Jersey to Colorado. And I think initially I went there because it was really cool to ski. And I had no idea how much of a party school this place was. It was the party school of party schools. And within one semester, I said, I'm focusing so much more on partying than I am on my studies. I have to get out of here, wasting time, wasting money. Went home, became a painter right away, and a subcontractor for a big painter, and did that for about 10 years till the Gulf War. Then kind of people weren't getting their houses painted, and then came back to it after that. Then got tired of it. I got tired because I hated being outside in the cold weather. So I wanted to be in where it was warm. So mortgage industry for about 13 years doing direct mail. And then the industry crashed, and I had to figure out in my 40s, what am I going to do when I grow up in my 40s? So I transitioned into trying to figure this stuff out online.
Man, the story, those stories I love the most, because for me, building communication and community it means the most. And I gain, I don't know what I want to say, traction, or I gain just like appreciation and confidence in hearing those other stories. Because for me, it's the same. I mean, I think I told you, maybe I've said it on the podcast before, I didn't own a computer till I was in my 30s. You know, I didn't desire to learn the things that I'm actually doing for a living every day now. And sometimes you feel a little behind the curve. There's almost like a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a lot to learn. And instead of trying to eat the whole cow, just take a bite at a time, right?
So I think that's pretty accurate for me. I don't think I think I was probably about 34 or 35 when I got my first computer, and that was when America Online came online.
Oh, wow.
So, so I'm 56, so I'm kind of dating myself, but been
well, I'm envious of your hair. Is all I'm going to say at 56. Look, I'm 42, and a little kid looked at me last night and said, "Did you shave your head?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, kid? This is more hair than I usually got."
Yeah, no, it is. I'm blessed with the silver hair for sure.
Looks good, man. Looks good. I'm envious.
Thanks, I think the main important thing for all business owners is to stay agile, which basically means, and especially when it comes to marketing in Google changes all the time. So you just have to come into this if you're going to think about SEO and a website and saying, you know what? This is how we're optimizing today. Within 4 or 5 years, Google's going to be something completely different, right? What does that mean? So,
Matt, are you open to calls or questions from the audience if they wanted to reach out to you?
Sure. I mean, the easiest way to reach out to me is on the podcast. We've got a form on there. I don't have the text messaging set up yet for that, but that's the EMJpodcast.com. So, and if they're looking for referrals, I can give them the direct referrals for those different companies. Like I said, Steady Demand, Sterling Sky, and Mike Blumenthal. So those would be who I would recommend for services for local SEO. I don't actually provide local services, but I interview. What I try to do on the show is interview as many different experts as I can for entrepreneurs and businesses, small businesses, and get their aha moments and their breakthroughs, and then strategies that are currently working. So,
yeah, for sure, man. That aha moment. That's that's really impressive. I mean, when you can capture those stories, to me, that's the magic, because that's where people move past, hey, I'm uncomfortable behind the microphone. Like, you know what I'm saying? I get that a lot, and I think those aha moments are where they almost had this educational moment that they actually can't wait to share.
Yeah, no, it's what happened in your business and how did you overcome it, right? It doesn't have to be marketing. Typically, it does have an effect on how they market their business, but it doesn't have to be directly marketing. It could be, man, I had this product. I was all behind this product, and my business started failing, and I had to change everything of what I was marketing and and it was a 360 or whatever it might be, right? So for me, that's the key thing about getting these moments down from people, to share them, to be able to say, because for me, it's really about, if I can show people that other people had these issues and this is how they overcame them, this is a way for them to avoid, first of all, that pitfall. And then also some episodes we have our just strategies, like what's working. So, and we have some other things too. So, not everybody entrepreneur has has everything figured out. There's some guys that are, or ladies that are in corporate, and they're just, or wherever that they're working a job, and they are not satisfied with where they're at. They want to start a business. They're not quite sure what they want to do, but they don't know how to start a business, or they don't know how to market a business. So that's we're trying to provide all that information.
Yeah, all of this is helpful information, even beyond the shed. I always say the shed is just the extension of the person. We're really doing a podcast about people. We do, we live our faith openly here at the Shed Geek Podcast. We also, want to educate and interview and add value. And when you add value, opportunity finds its way to you, and that's sustaining through your finances, whatever it looks like. You'll have opportunity to make money. So,
I got this little motto here that's always on my desk. It's, by serving others, we find purpose. So
yeah, amen.
That's kind of it, man.
Man, I'll tell you what, we'll talk a little bit after I stop recording here, but I know it's kind of impromptu. I didn't mention this ahead of time, but a lot of times I like to close in prayer. Is it okay if I just kind of...
Sure. Sounds great.
All right. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for just this filling of community. Ask that you'd continue to bless Matt and all that he does. Bless the industry and those that are listening today, that they would have found something that would help them personally, and for that they would be able to always point back to you as a resource that makes those things available and possible. We always thank you for the chance to meet new people and connect. And if there's a way that someone can be helped through this, Lord, and ultimately find you through this, that's what we ask. Ask that you'd bless Matt, bless this day and all that we're going to talk to today, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.